This video is brought to you by ncix.com. Great technology, selection, and service.
Gaming routers may be the first time you've ever heard that term. In the past, most gamers preferred using wired solutions since they offer the highest, most consistent bandwidth and stability. However, with 5 GHz AC Wi-Fi slowly starting to become popular these days, companies have begun to take advantage of this technology to make it even faster and more reliable. In addition, with new features like MU-MIMO being implemented, these routers are quickly becoming the multi-user access hubs today's users are looking for, implementing high-bandwidth wireless solutions for multiple devices. Can wireless finally hope to match wired? That's exactly what ASRock's new G10 gaming router hopes to achieve. Despite being known for their affordable motherboards, ASRock is shooting for the stars with their first router. Not only does the G10 have more features that most users will actually utilize, but its price will likely be staggering for some, $250. That puts it in the line with some of the best alternatives from the likes of ASUS, Linksys, and Netgear. But if you're considering a faster router anyways, there are a few nifty add-ons that ASRock brings to the table with the G10, so let's check it out. From a physical perspective, ASRock designed the G10 to look a little aggressive with these angular lines pointing in and out. The glossy plastic finish on the body does look quite good, plus it blends in perfectly within a gaming setup or a living room. Unfortunately, the G10 can only be placed in a vertical orientation, so you won't be able to hang this on the wall or tuck it safely beneath other components. It takes up a lot of vertical space. ASRock chose this orientation since the 8 internal antennas are strategically placed around the housing, so blocking them could jeopardize speeds and the range within your household. There's a large yet basic LED indicator on the top to indicate the router status. It blinks at different colors and speeds to indicate various functions or errors. I'm not sure why ASRock decided to go with a one LED tells everything approach rather than using a clearer multi-LED panel. So now let's talk specs. This is a dual band router with a single 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz bands with full 802.11 A, B, G, N, and AC support. Theoretically, the 5 GHz band should be able to push 1700 megabits per second, while the 2.4 GHz band should be good for 800 megabits per second. It has a dual-core Qualcomm processor with 512 megabytes of RAM that can easily manage those 8 internal antennas and multiple streams without a problem. The G10 can be classified as a Wave 2 MU-MIMO router. For those wondering, MU-MIMO stands for multi-user, multiple input, and multiple output. This means multiple users can simultaneously stream high bandwidth data through the same network without hindering performance, hence why ASRock used a beefier CPU, controller, and memory. Taking a spin at the I/O, we have a couple of IR transmitters, separate WPS buttons for the 5 GHz and 2.4 GHz networks, 4 gigabit LAN ports, a single WAN port that's color-coded in yellow, 2 USB 3.0 ports, reset, power button, and DC in. The IR transmitters that I just mentioned are there for a reason. Let's say you have this router placed in your living room besides your home appliance like your TV, home theater system, or even the air conditioner. Like Logitech's Harmony series of remotes, the sensor picks up and learns the infrared signals of your remote controller, and by downloading the ASRock Router app available on both iOS and Android, you can use your smartphone to remotely control your home appliances through the router. It's a pretty cool feature, but I have a concern regarding the sensor placement at the back. If you're going to toss this in a corner of a room rather than having this towering figure clutter things up, it would be difficult for the sensor to pick up the signal. But if you solve these issues, I would certainly use this feature on a regular basis, and from our tests, it did indeed pick up and learn various remote control functions across multiple devices. The inclusion of 2 USB 3.0 ports on the G10 is a welcome feature as well. You can connect flash drives, external hard drives, or even a NAS and make yourself a personal cloud-based storage or backup solution. Setting it up was a piece of cake. All you have to do is log into router.asrock.com and configure the USB drive as shared storage device and click apply. It reboots the router, which does take about 5 to 10 minutes, so be mindful of that. And what do you guys think of this UI? To me, it shares a lot of design elements from an old school 8-bit game, and for $200, I expect something cleaner than this. And even though the interface is quite responsive, ASRock, I'm sure you can fix this with an update. On a positive note, the complementing app that's available on both Android and iOS looks nice and works well. When you fire it up, ASRock requires you to register an account with them, and once you have done that, log in and add the newly installed G10 router that's connected to your network. Tap on it and you're greeted with the router setting, IR control, and storage. I was interested to see how well the G10 could stream movies from my USB device over the network, and to my surprise, it worked like a charm. I have a 30 down 5 up network setup, and 1080p Blu-ray movies ended up streaming really well when I'm upstairs near the router and downstairs in my living room and kitchen. The app also lets me download, delete, rename, copy, and move files within the network drive, and I can see myself using this feature a lot just for scrap footage. Hats off, ASRock. The overall performance of the G10 was solid. Most of my devices were connected on the 5 GHz band, and the speeds were consistent throughout my household, that being my office, my sister's bedroom, the living room downstairs, and again, even the kitchen. I also happen to have the Shield TV from Nvidia, so I wanted to see how well GameStream would run. And yes, the G10 handles it perfectly. I experienced no signs of lag throughout my gameplay, and this itself shows how strong and reliable this router is. There's one more thing to cover, and that's the included H2R dongle held magnetically at the top portion of the router. Its main focus is to provide HDMI mirrorcast abilities, much like Google's Chromecast, and it also acts as a wireless access point when traveling. Mirrorcasting did indeed work, for the most part. Setup process wasn't too hard. All you need to do is plug the H2R into the TV via HDMI, plug the included USB cable into the TV's USB port for power, and have your smartphone set up the whole system. What disappointed me was the UI. Take it with a grain of salt, but this is definitely the worst UI I've ever seen compared to the competition out there. Streaming pictures or video from your smartphone is just too complicated, and the Chromecast seems to do a much better job at that. As for the H2R's performance as a travel companion, that's a bit more complicated. The supposed benefit here is the ability to project a clear wireless network in an area where wireless connectivity may be a bit spotty, for example, in a hotel room. Essentially, all you have to do is connect the dongle to an RJ45 Ethernet connection, and it creates a strong, though limited range multi-user wireless access point that can be protected behind a password to limit access. The problem is actually powering it, since ASRock doesn't include an AC adapter. Rather, you should be able to power it via micro USB cable that's plugged into a cell phone's wall adapter, and any 5V USB plug should work, but that's another component that you'll need to carry along with you, and one that won't be recharging your phone. The G10 is a fast router. ASRock did miss a few marks with the placement of the IR sensor, the lack of a dedicated LED diagnostic, and the immature looking web UI. However, on a positive note, the performance on both 5 and 2.4 GHz bands were consistent, and it got me to a point where I wished I had a better internet plan. The H2R is a nice inclusion for the price, and it gets the job done as well. So would you consider the G10 as an upgrade from your current router if you don't mind the things we mentioned earlier? And what would you like to see in the next revision? Let us know in the comments down below. I'm Eber with Hardware Canucks. Don't forget to subscribe for more similar content, and we'll see you in the next one.